Okay guys, so disaster struck. And my lovely bumpers have been wiping them down after it rains, really proud of them, looked after them. And I went and backed into a pillar outside a supermarket car park. What a shame. And what it's done, if you come in close here, it's shunted this panel behind, see? There, and it's lifted the panel. Apart from this dent, the worst thing is this. It's shunted the chassis. And look at that. See that crease? It's like the whole wing's just gone like this. And the chassis is being shunted. You can actually catch a car in a certain way. If this was a hard top, it might have been written off. You probably would have seen the roof pop up like that. Because if you catch any car just on a certain position, even if you don't hit it that hard, it'll just hit the chassis in such a way it'll just kink the whole car up and twist the whole car. I mean, I'm hoping and I think, you see, I went over the top with this paint. The paint was, you know, it was in a barn for 16 years. So the paint was basically perfect in a lot of places, albeit a bit dull and a bit lackluster. So I just basically blocked it all down within an inch of its life and went over the top. And I think it was the right thing to do, rather than spend 3 or 4 weeks stripping every bit of filler. And because most people skim a whole car with filler, just a light bit of filler, and then block it all out, guide coat it, block it out, and then they put the primer on, then the coat of paint, then the lacquer, which is what's happened to this. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this is just a bit of filler just splitting. So if I chop all this out and it's clean steel underneath and there's no creases, I think I'll be a lucky man. But you never know. Anyway, we'll soon find out. Okay, so we just take a little bit of time out. I'm sure you've all noticed this little beauty over here. So this is the new acquisition to the garage. I picked this up. It was the usual same old story where it was sitting at the back of a garage for about 15 or 20 years. There's all kinds of parts missing. The entire interior's missing from the car. All the parts are in boxes and bits and bobs. And seeing as everything was covered in rat poop and piss, I thought it was time to put a pair of gloves on. And this is where one of the critters has met its untimely end. But if you look at, if you just look at the condition of the work that's being done, these wheels are like brand new. It's got brand new tyres all around, which unfortunately will probably have to be replaced, because if I put a light on them, you probably see they're starting to crack because they've been sitting up for so long. But all the wings have been replaced. And the work, the craftsmanship that's gone into this is really first class. All the sills are being done, the wings, as I say, the floors are being done, the wood on the hood has all been replaced. The hood's been taken apart, the hood frame, and all cleaned up and painted. All the wood's being fitted around the back here, so it's kind of halfway there. And it's a fantastic paint job. If you look down here, it's absolutely as straight as a die, albeit red, resale red. It's just a shame our car, a beautiful car like this, I absolutely adore these cars, as you know, but how a car like this has ended up in this situation, in this, you know, in this sorry state. That door's locked permanently, so that's going to require a bit of work. The entire interior completely missing, which where that's ended up I don't know. So I'm going to have to either make it or try and source one, or, I mean, that's going to be some mean feat, that. But let me just talk through a few of the little differences in these cars. You'll notice at the back here on the suspension, it has the spheres. This is a 1983 car. The black Corniche is a 1975. So just in a couple of years, you know, you can already see quite a few upgrades. Whether they're for the better, I don't know. You know, time will tell. But if you look at the engine bay, everything seems to be there. You know, it's a bit dusty, a bit old, but that'll all clean up beautifully. And I was told it was a runner when it went into the garage. So I've got no worries there. It's a Rolls-Royce at the end of the day, and you know, you can't kill a Rolls-Royce, you can't kill a BMW, whatever the saying is. This bit, there's all bits in boxes like the windows, the window motors. This piece is over there. If you come around to the front here, I'll show you. You got all the, well, this is off the Porsche, of course. There's all the bumper bits here. There's this little box full of full of trinkets, all bits of trim off the bumpers. Bumpers, there's mirrors, there's all your seals, your rubber seals, which will probably have to be replaced anyway. There's some of the wood off the hood frame. A couple of those are missing, but they can be made up if I don't end up finding them. Yeah, so you can see I've got my work cut out. But just to show you a little bit of the quality of the work that's been done on the car. This is some of the wood. Doesn't look too clever, does it? But then look at this. It's like brand new. It's all been done to a really high standard. It's just a bit of dust, see? So that's going to look a treat when it's back on. You've got a box of chrome bits here. With all these. So it's just one giant jigsaw puzzle, really. So we get back to the engine bay again. See all this, like brand new. Shame. You know, someone's put a lot of time and effort and money into the car, and then things have got lost along the way. People lose interest. You know, they fall out with whoever's been storing the car for them, and suddenly 15, 20 years down the line, you end up with this travesty. This runs on the LHM brake fluid, hydraulic fluid, which is the green stuff. Unlike the black one, which runs on the normal brake fluid, really, but it's got the additive. It's a 363 brake fluid, which is the same as normal brake fluid, but it has the additive in for the brake pumps, the lubrication, extra lubrication. But yeah, there's a few little, you know, similarities and a few things that have been upgraded and quite dissimilar. But as I say, you know, when we get it all back on the road, we'll compare the two, and you'll see whether Rolls-Royce actually did make progress or it was better the way it was. But what a beautiful car. I mean, look at this. All the chrome's being done. You see it's got the shorter grille here as well, because it takes the bigger bumper. So I think it's about 3 or 4 inches shorter than the black one, because that's obviously on the chrome bumpers. Yeah. You know, everything's going to have to come out again. I'm going to repaint the car because I just don't like this red. This was originally willow gold, which, funnily enough, the black one was willow gold originally. So it must have been a popular colour at the time. Anyway, as you can see, once again, I've got my work cut out. Right, okay, so now we've safely got the rear bumper off and it's been sent off to Douglas Chrome Finishes in Kent. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get that back in a few weeks' time, all nice and brand new again. So I've decided I'm going to get the car in the air, and while the chrome's getting done, I'm going to do a bit of work on the back axle. I think we're all guilty of living with squeaks and rattles and play in the back axle, and we just kind of get on with it and just live with it. But I'm just thinking, now I've got the time on my hands, I might as well go through it all and see if I can just renew and replace as many parts as I possibly can. So I've just got another shipping order from IntroCar, and it always amazes me. I know I've talked about this in the past, but whatever I've ordered, they always seem to have. They've never said, no, we can't get that, or it's obsolete, because, like I've explained, they're into the remanufacturing of parts that are no longer available. Which, okay, they're aftermarket parts, but sometimes, as I've said before, they're better than the 50-odd-year-old originals. So yeah, so I've got various universal joints for the back axle. Yeah, the cushions, these are like, I call them the Brillo pads. These become crushed up over time, and you end up with play, or the car sits low, or whatever. A couple of stops. Yes, that's all them bits. And I've also decided to go the whole hog. And I know we rebuilt the rear calipers on the brakes, but I haven't done anything to the discs. And because they overheated a few times when I first got the car on the road, they're invariably glazed. And rather than try and clean the glaze off, I've just decided to go for new discs. I'll put a new set of pads on yet again, and I'll just go through it all. And, you know, peace of mind. Brakes are really important, as we've discussed in previous episodes. So yeah, handbrake pads, rear pads. And I'm also going to put a brand new set of fresh bearings on, inner and outer. I know we replaced the outer ones last year, whatever, but I'm going to do the inner ones as well. I'm just going to strip everything and do it so it's all as new as I can possibly get it. Various nuts and bits and bobs and seals to go with it. And here we go. There's your brand new discs. Look at them beauties. So yeah, the only thing left to do now is, as I always say, let's get stuck in. So with the long list of to-dos, I'm going to kick off with the removal of the rear hubs. This entails removing the handbrake cables where they connect to the trail arms to gain access to the hub retaining bolts, undoing and tying up the brake calipers out of the way, and releasing the universal joints at the end of each axle where they connect to the flanges that turn the wheels. You know, it is possible to replace the brake pads with the calipers in situ, but if the caliper is to be removed, this car runs a high pressure system, so first don't forget to depressurise it before doing so. This is easy. Ignition on, and pump the pedal until both red brake lights illuminate on the dash. Now it's safe to work on. Now here I'm fitting new rear brake pads with the caliper off the car and on the bench. I'll do them on the opposite caliper on the car later. Don't worry too much about the position of these spring clips. Along with a bit of copper grease on the back to stop them squealing, these basically stop the pads from rattling and wandering about. So with that done, and the hubs safely removed and in the boot, I'm now in need of the special hub splitter tool. So I'm off to see my mate Darren Christian at Christian Clock Garage in Southport. Now look at this is the original Rolls-Royce tool which I picked up on eBay about 18 months ago. It's the proper gear that Rolls-Royce used themselves back in the day. And what's the chance of that? I think I paid 50 quid for it. Absolute bargain, nobody bid on it. So I gave this to Darren because he does them day in, day out. And I know what it is when I want to use it. And get a little bit of help off him at the same time. So with the tools safely in position and tightened up, a little bit of heat, so it's off with the Woodruff key, out with the hub bolts, split the hub, out with the short axle, and away we go. Out with the bearings and the races, carefully tapped out. Give it a good clean. Off with the brake disc, a little bit of heat required. Little tap off. And let's start reassembly. Now the races can be carefully tapped in. And the old race can be used to tap it right in so it seats properly. And when you feel it seat, now this is an upgrade. You can see it has an extra seal that runs around here. And because it sits in a taller race, this means you have to remove this aluminium seat at the bottom of the short axle in order for it to accommodate, as this is the old style. Otherwise it won't fit, it'll be too proud, and the hub will just lock up. And you'll also notice I use this green extra heavy duty grease from Lucas. On with the new brake disc. Oh, and don't forget, all these bolts have to be torqued up with the correct setting. There you go. Turn it over and in with the next bearing. And always make sure the race is correctly seated before the bearing is fitted. The new bearings are carefully greased up and in they go. The rubber seal is fitted to the short axle. And don't forget guys, these are UNF Imperial. In with the Woodruff key. On with the yoke. And it's really important that this big nut on the hub is tightened up to £550 per foot, or it's simple, it will shear off. Now that one was pretty straightforward, but for some reason this one just didn't want to play ball. Eventually, when it came free, it had completely stripped the thread on the short axle. So this was basically scrap. There we go. You also have to be careful not to apply too much heat in the wrong places, in case you end up compromising the structure of the tempered steel short axle. Just look at that. So back at the garage, with one complete and one half made up. Well, that sounds nice and freely. Back on it goes. This is the alternative way to fit new brake pads, but instead of being off the car and on the bench, this is done with the brake caliper still in situ. Notice the positions of the little clips on the pads. You see, in my opinion, fitted either way, these will work equally as well, keeping the pads free of the disc until the brakes are applied. So I guess that's all we got time for this week. I'm sure you'll agree it was a pretty involved job, wasn't it? A bit more involved than I expected, but the first one came apart and went back together pretty easily. And then the second one just didn't want to play ball, did it? But anyway, I've taken the liberty of ordering a new short axle from IntroCar, which should be with me in the morning, so I'll get that other side boxed off and all finished. And then I'll start on this long list of jobs on the suspension that I didn't get round to doing this episode. But it took a little bit longer than we thought. But yeah, it's always best to be safe than sorry. You know, always err on the side of caution and safety, because, you know, when you're working with something like this, £550 per foot torque, and a lot of heat on the components, and, you know, you strip a thread or start to strip a thread, just don't take any chances. Throw it away, buy a new one, or get a decent second-hand one, start again, do the job properly, methodically. Anyway, look, I really appreciate you tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time. And once again, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe.